Welcome to the Leon L. Williams, San Diego County Human Relations Commission meeting on July 18th, 2023, and we're starting at 5:33. We also want to welcome our online community for watching us online. Now we're going to call this meeting to order with roll call.
Thank you, Chair Nash. I'll just note for the record that we received a few absences in advance. Cinnamon Clark will be absent, Priscilla de los Rios, Pastor Dennis Hodges, Adine Ismail, and Fabian Perlov, who is our newest member and will not be able to take a seat until her turn. I'll call the roll. Pedro Naya. Still here. Kay Clark. Angela Elliott Santos.
Present.
Eleanor Evans.
Present.
Sarah Farouk. Rodney Fowler. Here. David Garcia. Present. Taha Hassan. George Corey. Present. Edith Sanchez on behalf of Kelly Martinez.
Present.
Commissioner Nicole Murray Ramirez. Chair Nash.
Present.
Khalid Rocky. Gina Roberts. Present, sir. Joseph Allen Rialto Ramirez. Summer Steffen. And we've been notified that Summer Steffen is leaving about 10 minutes ago. David Vance. Present. President Johnson.
We will now move to our land acknowledgement.
In recognition of and respect for Indigenous peoples as traditional stewards of the land that we now call the County of San Diego, for millennia, the Kumeyaay people have been a part of this land. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the San Diego community and inhabitants of the Mayat Tepe Kumeyaay territory, we acknowledge this legacy. We promote this balance and harmony. We find inspiration from this land, the land of the Kumeyaay.
We now want to open it for public comment. Do we have any public commenters?
And this agenda item is non-agenda public comment. We didn't have any speakers that registered for non-agenda public comment, but we have speakers. We do have speakers for the future agenda items.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to agenda 5, Celebratory Awareness Month or Day. We want to celebrate and acknowledge Disability Pride Month, where Commissioner Joseph Ramirez is going to share some words of reflection.
July has been the month to celebrate and honor individuals with disabilities since 1990, when the American Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed. Like other month-long observances, Disability Pride Month may give the appearance of equal treatment while functioning as little more than a checkbox for the dominant culture. Since the founding of this country's laws limiting individuals with disabilities to be in public settings and have a voice in the community have persisted. For generations, it has been seen as a curse or divine providence for these individuals to have their disability. We need to celebrate and honor all individuals with visible and invisible disabilities. We are often taught that individuals with disabilities are less valuable because they provide less labor, that they receive quote unquote too much government support, that they get quote unquote special treatment. Ending the bias and uplifting disabled folks requires us to learn about the social, cultural, political, and capital impact on individuals with disabilities and commit to being in solidarity with communities, especially those facing multiple forms of oppression.
Testing, there you go. We will also acknowledge our French American Heritage Month, And I would like to acknowledge it by, in the United States, July is designated as National French American Heritage Month and was established to honor the significant contributions made to the country by people of French descent. Currently, approximately 11.8 million Americans of French or French Canadian descent live and work in the United States, with about 2 million of those speaking French at home. As of 2011 census, an additional 750,000 French American citizens were added to those numbers due to the large Creole community whose language is based on French. A significant goal of groups like the Alliance Francaise, who spearheaded events like French American Heritage Month, dedicate the entire month of July to celebrating and honoring the immense influence that the French have had on the United States in terms of laws, art, culture, language, and social etiquette. There are many ways in which the public can participate in the celebrations that start at the homes of French American families, the offices of French organizations based in the United States, and on social media platforms dedicated to the French American culture and communities. I would like to acknowledge some San Diego organizations, the San Diego French American Chamber of Commerce, the House of France at San Diego Balboa Park, and the San Diego French American School. The Immigrant Heritage Month on the agenda, we will incorporate into the presentation on Agenda 8 from the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs overview. Now we would like to go to Agenda Item 6, Rules of Order.
All right, thank you, Chair Nash. So for the rules of order, I will read off number 2 and 3 that are of particular importance to this meeting. Number 2 of the rules of order: be respectful of others who are speaking. Remain on mute until it is your turn to speak if you're online, and avoid interrupting others. Raise your hand to be called on by the chair, and do not speak until called on by the chair. Refrain from discriminatory and harassing remarks. Definition of discriminatory and harassing remarks includes legally protected speech in a board meeting that disparages an individual or group based on their perceived race, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, disability, etc., or other hate speech, but does not rise to the level of a criminal threat or inciting violence.
Now we will move to Agenda Item 7, discussion of Commissioner Corey's comments at the May 16th Human Relations Commission meeting. And as we know, there have been concerns about Commissioner Corey's comments from the May 17th meeting. At last month's meeting, we had the opportunity to hear from the public and our commissioners, even though Commissioner Corey was absent and unable to address us. I understand that Commissioner Corey has had the opportunity to view the video of the June meeting. First, I would like to turn over the time to Commissioner Corey, who will have an opportunity to write his remarks, and he will have 3 minutes to do so. Then we will have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item, though it is not necessary for any member of the public to repeat what he or she said at the last meeting. Lastly, we will have commissioner discussion. Commissioner Corey, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair Nash. Chair Nash, Vice Chairs Evans and Estella, fellow commissioners and staff. I had prepared something that I really wanted to read, but it would have taken 10 minutes, and I was told I'm allowed only 3. So what I did, I sent it to Cindy. She will distribute to everybody later on. The accusation of anti-Semitism presented by Rabbi Scott Litzer and Commissioner Nicole Ramirez against is an aggressive and unfounded act of intimidation. Weaponizing anti-Semitism to silence and erase thoughts and ideas does not succeed, but rather devalues the real and genuine meaning of anti-Semitism when used in the right time and place. Anti-Semitism is a very serious charge. It is a charge that I take especially seriously because I have a Jewish son-in-law and many close Jewish friends. I see them as partners for peace and I cannot let this charge go unanswered. I submit that Rabbi Melzer's views are not in line with many of the Jewish American community that I know, who genuinely want peace and are open to learning from true historical events previously hidden and from my personal living experiences. Arab Americans and Jewish Americans are mutual allies in the fight against white supremacy. Unfortunately, some members of the Jewish community want to drive a wedge between Arab Americans and Jewish Americans who believe that acknowledgement of each other's life experiences and open discussion are the best ways to combat hatred. I wanted to explain why equity and racial justice are of personal importance to me personally. At the commissioners' meeting in May, I spoke on the significance of the 75th anniversary of the Nakba, which is the catastrophe, when I, along with more than several 100,000 Palestinians, were expelled from our homeland by creation of the State of Israel. This is called ethnic cleansing, not as I am only speaking it or stating it, but it is as Israeli historians such as Ilan Pape, Avi Shleim, Benny Morris, etc. And I'm willing to provide any of you their books and their reports. I proudly combated the erasure of Palestinian history every day of my life and will continue to do so as long as I can breathe, because Palestinians are among the most vulnerable people in the world that is shamelessly pressured to forget and erase us. I will continue doing so and ask Rabbi Melzer and Nicole Ramirez and all of you to join me in doing exactly that, as it will benefit not only the Palestinians, but also the Israelis in promoting equality, equity, as well as justice amongst all, irrespective of religion, race, and color. Most importantly, I hope they and others become aware how embracing Palestinian history is essential for a future for peace with justice. Our history and its details, its pain and legacy will not be suppressed or erased. On the contrary, our movement of awareness is growing among diverse allies, including Jewish American partners. I proudly call my brothers and sisters. Thank you. Thank you.
We will now have our public commenters. So I will call the first speaker.
George Nasser, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. If you want to come on up, you can come to the podium and Cindy will hand you over. It's George Nasser.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is George Nasser. I'm like George Puri, a Palestinian who had to flee in 1948 to Cairo when Israel was created. And at the same time, in 67, we had to flee again because of the war in the Middle East. My family had a very large bus company in Palestine. We had the Greyhound bus company, 120 buses that ran from Baghdad to Cairo to Damascus, everywhere. This is the deeds of our property in Jerusalem. And everything has been confiscated. Nobody knows our story. We cannot repeat our story because they call us anti-Semitic. I cannot be anti-Semitic because I am Semitic. And we'd like people to know our story and search it and find the truth, because it will help solve the peace in the Middle East when people know the truth. Thank you.
Jamal Kanji.
My name. Switch out. Well, I'm an engineer, so that's a problem with engineers. Anyway, my name is Jamal Kanj. You know, I read the letter actually that Ms. Nicole wrote regarding the meeting that happened last month. And in that letter, she compared the comment that were made by Mr. Khoury to a homophobe at a meeting for this organization. I just want to say that homophobes exist because the LGBT community could not tell their story. And that's what exactly the commission is trying to do to Mr. Khoury, is stopping him from telling his story. Let me tell you something. I was born in a Palestinian refugee camp. I grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp. My parents were ethnically cleansed from their homes by Zionist terrorist organization in 1948. You mean if I say that, I would be inciting hate against Jews? To the contrary, I think by bringing understanding to my own misery, I will bring understanding between all communities, Jews included. We are not the one who conflate Jewish values with Israeli policies. And that's exactly what we try to do when we try to tell our own story to the public. Because conflating Jewish values with Israel, as it was done in the letter by Ms. Nicole, saying that it is the only Jewish nation. You cannot criticize them, basically. Since you are recognizing the French Heritage Month, what if I criticize France today? The only French nation in the world.
Sir,
Would I be anti-French?
Thank you. Doris Bitar.
Can you hear me? I'm the California coordinator for the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. Would you ever ask survivors in your community to be silent about personal and collective suffering to accommodate the feelings of racists, homophobes, anti-Semites, and white supremacists? Arab Americans experience silencing and erasure every day. Everyone can talk except for us. Commissioner Khoury was attacked for speaking his truth. The attacks against Commissioner Khoury by Commissioner Murray Ramirez, Rabbi Metzler, and others aim to normalize a denial of our First Amendment rights. Do we end anti-Semitism by creating fear, ask questions about questions? Does this silencing support the 75 years long continued violence against Palestinians? Bigotry, ignorance, and stereotypes normalize this silencing. It's no longer acceptable to live in ignorance. By stereotyping Arab Americans, scapegoating us, using stay in your lane, or accuse us of anti-Semitism when we are demanding justice for Palestinians here and abroad. I question the security today. I wonder who asked for that. We have demands, acknowledgement, acknowledge that Commissioner Khoury did not personally attack anyone, acknowledge that the diverse Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian communities exist, will always include the issue of Palestinian human rights and self-determination. All guidelines must follow expectation of open discussion rather than shut it down. Commissioner Khoury must receive a consensus of confidence to restore respect for this commission and show that it cares about the Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, American communities. That's number two. Number three, we have educational and cultural sensitivity presentations to share with the commission. 4, we request the inclusion of Arab youth to engage and be welcomed by the HRC. Among the commission's goals is to create conditions for equity and safety where we live, work, worship, and play. Will this commission help Arab, Palestinian, and Muslim Americans feel protected and safe? Thank you.
Nadir Khoury.
Out here, the last meeting. And I might
Can't
say
hear
that I
you.
was
Go to
definitely
the mic.
against.
Close to your
Point closer. I mentioned also that I was definitely against just like Mr. Khoury. But I want to say that this business of being anti-Semitic, you know, you are here being anti-Palestinian, that you do anything about Mr. Puri's comments. And anti-Palestinian to me is anti-Semitic, because we are Semites too. So think about that.
The speakers, when you come up to the mic, please hold the mic close to your mouth so we can make sure we hear you. Hear you online as well. Janine Erica.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Janine Ericat. I'm a Palestinian American born and raised here in San Diego, and I spoke to you all last month when this issue first came. And what I shared then stays true, that it's unacceptable that someone sharing their lived experience about ethnic cleansing that continues to this day is fact-based, is met with such hate, because that's what that is. And this weaponization of anti-Semitism isn't unique to what we saw last month, but is something that we've seen all over the nation, and have seen recently lawsuits coming up that we've won that in fact found that there wasn't anti-Semitism, and that people explaining their story and their lived experience is and will be, like, needs to be tolerated and is a fact. And I just want to emphasize that we came, as you see, so many of us here today, because we want a vote of confidence for George Flutie, that his position on the commission and the value and experience he brings represents us in this county. And we'll continue to advocate that. And I think we'll be really disappointed if you know, the commission doesn't express their strong support for George Flutie. And I'll leave it to the others who are here today, who I think will speak on this as well. Thank you.
Larry Christian.
I'm Larry Christian. I am from San Diego and live in Supervisorial District 4. I am the president of Karama, which is a local independent nonprofit. Karama is the Arabic word for dignity, and our nonprofit focuses on the issues of the Arab and Islamic world with a special emphasis on Palestine. Since Commissioner Khoury spoke on at the May 16th meeting, he has been accused of making an anti-Semitic rant, of inciting and inflaming anti-Semitism. There was even a call for him to be removed from his position. What did he do? He accurately described his and other Palestinians' experiences as they were dispossessed in 1948. Why did his accurate account engender such a response? Simply put, some people who feel a strong connection to the state of Israel don't want mention of certain facts to be part of public discourse. They are caught in a dilemma of caring deeply about a state that has committed wrong, even criminal acts. We, as U.S. persons, are or should be familiar with this dilemma. Our history is replete with examples from the taking of the land of indigenous people, enslaving Africans, acquiring California and other southwestern states from Mexico by force, making war on Vietnam, overthrowing democratically elected governments throughout the third world, invading Iraq under false pretenses, and more. But the answer to this dilemma is not and should not be to silence the facts. That approach is what leads to firing teachers who talk about racism because it makes white kids feel bad. The real answer is to recognize the wrongs and crimes that have been committed in our names, take a stand against them, and act together to repair the damage.
Thank you, sir. Your time. Thank you.
I thought I got 3 minutes.
2 minutes. Apologies.
That's not what it says on mine.
No, I think we publicized as 2 minutes. And we also announced 2 minutes at the beginning of the public speaking. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Andy Trimlett.
Thank you. My name is Andy Trimlett. I spent 10 years of my life producing a documentary called 1948 Creation and Catastrophe. I've personally spoken to Palestinians who were forced from their homes in the Nakba, and I have spoken to Israelis who pushed them out. Israeli veteran Hava Keller told me that when she arrived in the Palestinian town of Beersheba, her fellow soldiers welcomed her, saying, and I quote, "Wonderful, you came just in time. Tomorrow we are going to throw out the Arabs from Beersheba. You are going to hell." The next day, she held a gun as Israelis forced Palestinians onto buses and sent them to Gaza, where they still live today. And our Israeli researchers acquired a trove of documents from Israeli military archives. Here's a sample, quote, "Expel the Arab refugees from those villages and prevent them from returning again by destroying its villages." Commissioner Khoury's story must be heard. We must not allow our community to silence the voices of people who have suffered human rights abuses, no matter who they are. I call on this commission to apologize to Commissioner Khoury, but an apology means nothing without action. I ask you to add an agenda item to your next meeting to discuss the events of Nakba. There are people all over San Diego County who have lived through these events, including survivors of the infamous massacre at Deir Yassin. It's time to hear their stories. It's time that our community recognize this tragic history. Thank you.
George Cody? This is a different George. Okay. Lena Odin?
Can you hear me? My name is Lena Rode, and I actually had the blessing of growing up with this man and watching him fight, not only for Palestinian communities, but for all communities. He's a straight shooter, and he is equal rights for everyone. And I call that a blessing to have that and my mentorship in my life. I'm a Palestinian American and a Palestinian Israeli. I'm a professor. I teach in the West Bank. I also know my family in Nazareth. We went through the Nakba. And I am a living proof of what that story is. Nothing gets lost into history, even if you want to silence us. Even if you want to tell us our history didn't happen. So slinging words like anti-Semitic makes us laugh. And it's weak. And it's actually embarrassing for the people who say it. Because you belittle anti-Semitism when it actually happens. And you make it small. And you think you will silence us, you will not, because my generation and the generations after, we have a living memory. We watch our grandparents. We watch the children now suffer. It is a living history, and it is present, and we will not be silenced. I think it's important to be educated. We are in a country where we do not have to be silenced. We are in a country where the truth gets told. And Amma Majid, your truth should be told. All of our truth should be told. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Nash. That concludes public comment on this item.
Two online.
Oh, apologies. We have two comments online. Two public comments online.
Amal Jubran.
Amal Jubran. Jubran.
Yes.
Amal Jubran.
Good evening, everyone. May I speak? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm a Palestinian. I'm Israeli Palestinian, American Israeli Palestinian, Christian one. No matter what I am, but my blood is Palestinian. I have history of my parents, history of my relatives. They survive. Some of them get kicked out of the country, and some of them still live in Haifa and Upper Galilee and Nazareth. So I salute Mr. George Khoury. He is a drop of a river running in the Nakba, and we should educate our community about it. We are Semitic people. We are the West Asia people and not Middle East. The colony who conquer our country call us Middle East of their goals. So we are West Asian people suffering till today, every day, with American help by the Israeli occupation force killing Palestinian every day. Journalists, according to 2000, since 2000, the year 2000 until today, over than 55 journalists been killed, sniping them so they don't tell the truth. I wanted just to educate you guys and ladies and gentlemen. I'm not accusing anybody, but we need to open up our life, our heart, and respect each other and live together in peace if we are a democratic country. Thank you.
Thank you. Rima Cody.
Good evening. My name is Rima Houri. I'm a local San Diego attorney, and I am a Palestinian American. Please do not eliminate Palestinian history and silence the voices of Palestinians like George Houri. We should instead emphasize the vital importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is through this lens that we can truly foster a society that values the historical narratives of all cultures, including Palestinian history. Our purpose should not be to pick winners or losers, but rather to shine a light on historical facts that we may learn, better ourselves, and thrive as a community. Education is a powerful tool that allows us to uncover hidden truths and keep the door open for discussion. We must not succumb to the misguided notion that omitting Palestinian historical truths will prevent anti-Semitism. On the contrary, by acknowledging the complete truth of Palestinian history, we can address the roots of anti-Semitism and work towards its eradication. Suppressing the truth and stifling discussion can only serve to perpetuate ignorance and give rise to anti-Palestinian sentiments. Fear should not dictate our choices. We have a unique opportunity to strengthen partnerships and promote mutual respect through education. Jewish Americans in the United States and Jews in Israel are engaging in meaningful dialogue, seeking peace and understanding. It is essential that we as a society support this work and provide the foundation for a path of mutual respect where we can educate, guide, and be guided by one another. Together, we can commit to a future of understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. Thank you.
We have two more. Miss Maxwell, you can talk.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you so much. Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. I'm concerned that every time something comes up with this body, that there's a cancel culture. What happened to civility? And we agree to disagree respectfully, but we can continue to move forward so that we can have understanding. I thought this commission was completely leading with love and empathy, so that if somebody was offended, then we can go offline and have a conversation, and then we can have something go on in the whole body. But it seems like every time something comes up here in this space, it's a cancel culture. What happened to mutual respect, learning from each other and growing? We have so much going on in this region, and if you continue with this infighting, what's the point of the commission? It was reconstituted with an icon's name. And you guys don't understand how disingenuous it continually sounds every time someone introduces themselves on this commission, and then we find out and we read the minutes on what's going on. So please decide that moving forward, we will not go with this cancel culture and agree to disagree respectfully, but still move collectively up the stream, rowing our oars in the same direction. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Last speaker, Ed Swede. Yeah, I'm asking.
As you're muted, please unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. This is Ed Sweet. I'm here with my wife, Ethel. She and I founded the San Diego chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace 10 years ago. We were chapter number 36. There are over 70 chapters now in Jewish Voice for Peace nationwide, indicating a growing movement supporting the views of George Corey, who we've grown to know personally through the work over 10 years here in San Diego, trying to build a relationship between Jews and Palestinians. We support George Corey and the remarks he made last month. Thank you.
And that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you all for coming here today and speaking during public comments. I want to just further reiterate that this matter has been brought to our attention by Commissioner Mary Ramirez, who wrote the Human Relations Commission, the Leon Williams Human Relations Commission, asking first that Commissioner Corey rescind his remarks and apologize to the Jewish community and to Rabbi Scott Meltzer. And second, that the Human Relations Commission remove Commissioner Corey as a member of the commission. Commissioner Mary Ramirez argued in her letter that Commissioner Corey's comments constituted hate speech and were anti-Semitic. I would like to have County Council to read the commission's bylaws regarding this issue.
Thank you, Chair. The Commission's bylaws provide authority for the Human Relations Commission to censure or remove one of its members by a 2/3 vote only for such egregious conduct as substantial neglect of duty, gross misconduct, engaging in disparaging and or derogatory communication, or direct action, inability to discharge the powers and duties of office, or violation of the Commission's code of conduct. The code of conduct provides that members are not to engage in discriminatory or harassing remarks which are defined as speech that disparages an individual or group based on their perceived race, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, disability, etc., or other hate speech that does not rise to the level of a criminal threat or inciting violence.
So this brings us to our options. We have other options if we determine that Commissioner Corey either did not violate this group's rules or that he could have conveyed his message in a different way to better foster discussion on this difficult situation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For example, as we could use our newly learned dialogue process given to us by our consultants, the essential partners, to have dialogue and create an educational opportunity for this commission and the public. I am now going to open this discussion up to our commission with opportunity to discuss. If you could raise your hand, we'll send you the mic. Because we do want our public to hear from all the commissioners.
Commissioner Evans speaking. As I listened tonight and our last meeting, the meeting before the incident happened, I have to reflect on the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment in terms of free speech, what constitutes free speech, and what constitutes hate speech, for want of a better word. And I have to say that the Constitution guarantees free speech, regardless of how passionate it may be. And when one has the opportunity to tell one story, sometimes one does become very passionate. But passion is not being hateful. Passionate is sharing what one experiences. And there's a difference between living an experience and reading about an experience. A huge difference. And I think Mr. Corey, Commissioner Corey, shared his story. And it was a very painful story. It's very painful to hear, very painful to listen. I did not hear anything hateful in it. I heard a lot of hurtful things. I heard a lot of pain that he had experienced. That's what I heard. And I have to say, it was more like a speech of what we call courageous conversation. And I think we need to honor the fact that here's a man that carries a book of knowledge that we could all learn from. I'll quit. But in terms of commission, Commissioner Corey is one of the hardest working members on this commission. He goes the extra mile. He's never ever said no to anything we requested. He is very talented. We need Mr. Commissioner Corey on this commission. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, thanks to the members of the public who came last time and who came back this time, the new ones, those online, and any of the letters that were submitted. I've continued to reflect, and as I mentioned at our last meeting, I have a lot to learn on this particular issue. And I stand by that I still have a lot to learn. But what I keep reflecting on, and we have 3 minutes, correct? That's what I keep reflecting at is this is the work of a human relations commission. It's not to avoid this, it's not to ask someone to leave. It's when these difficult questions in our community come up and challenge our community, that is human relations. And how do we address it and deal with it and work through it? And at the end, when we work through it, as we found in our dialogue process, we may not even have an answer, but it's that process. And so I'm prepared to, because I'd like to frame this in like, what are we going to do? I don't want to just make a statement. I just don't want to have a conversation. And someone mentioned about not stifling this conversation. As we can all see, 2 minutes, 3 minutes on a mic is not enough time to have a deep, meaningful dialogue on this issue or other previous issues that I heard Ms. Maxwell say online, where we've been challenged before we go to a council culture, because this is not the format to be able to have real conversation. I would propose, and if later on, if a commission wants to allow promotion, that we use our essential partners dialogue process, use this as a perfect opportunity to learn how to use that process, challenge this commission, establish a planning working group to do that commission. And I would challenge those members, even members of the public and members of our commission who are on opposite sides, to be part of that planning process. I would challenge George and Nicole and others to be part of the planning to see what we can get out of that essential partners process that we've already paid for and we have as a resource. So let's use it, and then maybe even go back and revisit another issue we had on this commission and use it there as well and see what we learn. We may not get anything out of that, but we may. And we have the resource. I just don't want to sit here and go through writing another statement or have more. I want to put something forward that we can do together, and we can commit to see how we together as a community that's been challenged work through it. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you to members of the public for coming here today. I really appreciate you all being here and sharing your comments and sharing your experiences. Can you all hear me? I'm saying something. Okay. I just want to say I really appreciate your comments, Commissioner Anaya, because I do think this is a really important space for us to see what we can actually do with what's happening here, with the experiences that Commissioner Floyd himself shared, and how we can actually utilize this moment as an educational moment for a lot of us. And a lot of folks will say, well, I don't know a lot about the quote unquote conflict and what's going on. Well, I think you should know, because billions, and I mean the billions of dollars of US tax dollars, of our own tax dollars, go to funding of Israel's defense. Just to put it out there for you all. And so I really think education on this issue is really important and critical. But I also think understanding and addressing when somebody's sharing their personal experience and their personal journey, and Commissioner Khouri sharing his personal experience being a Palestinian and him being doxxed for that and him being quote unquote canceled or put aside, that is hugely problematic, because that is his own personal experience and he was brave enough to share that with us.
So I really appreciate you, Commissioner, for sharing that and for giving us the historical context. And when somebody is sharing the historical fact in the context, that's not inciting anti-Semitism, period, to be honest. Because if somebody were to tell me that the US invasion on Iraq never happened, when I'm from Iraq, I would tell them that's false, because it did happen. We all know that it happened. And so recognizing the facts and recognizing the history, where we come from, is really critical and important. And when someone is sharing their personal experiences, their own story, when you're sharing your own story, it's important for us as the Human Relations Commission to recognize that as the importance of that, and recognize that this is someone's story, someone was brave enough to share it with us. What can we do to make sure we're building community with that, right? And making sure we have a critical understanding. So I want to suggest, and I want to propose that we actually create some education around this. And I want to ask that we maybe invite a Palestinian organization from the community to come and present, educate us on this, because this is a really critical topic. And I feel like we all should have a really deep understanding of it, because it's not just a quote unquote conflict. It's not something that's happening internationally, abroad, away from us. There's Palestinian community members here that are directly affected by what's happening over there, right? So it's important for us to actually understand that historical context, but also how is that continuing to the present day and how is that affecting our communities? And by the way, in last few weeks, 2 weeks ago, the Jenin refugee camp was expelled. People, hundreds, if not thousands of families were expelled. So if I'm saying that, that's not anti-Semitic. I'm just telling you the fact of what happened, right? And so I invite people to explain to me, would that be anti-Semitic? No. Thank you.
Before I let you speak, I just want to put this on record that I accidentally cheated Eleanor Evans 1 minute. So at the end of everyone passing, I would, if she would like to finish her.
Thank you. I was just wondering how we're going to resolve, because I mentioned this last meeting too. How are we going to resolve that? I was just doing, I knew about it, but I opened that book of Jews again, and I read a few verses. I'm actually referring to the Jews Deuteronomy that the states go kill Palestinians, wipe them all out. So it's a teaching that they, on daily basis, teach their followers in their synagogues. So how are we going to resolve that? You know, when it's a learning.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, well, Deuteronomy 26, and I'm reading it for you. God's command that every living person in Canaan be put to death. As people conquer the land, no mercy for those women and children, no compassion on the aged, God instructed. So those are the information out there that the states in Deuteronomy. I'm not quite sure. I'm just stunned by reading. So how are we going to resolve
it? I want to apologize for being late. I was out there for about a half an hour. They kept sending me to another building. And I just got back from Nebraska. And I want to say this, just sometimes it's great when we go out into cities like, in states like Nebraska and Montana and so forth, as I do too. We're very blessed to live in California. Some of these people, what they're going through, it's mind-boggling. That being said, you know, there's talk about, well, we should use the person that's supposed to bring us together and talk about this. Each and every one of you are intelligent, have served in unbelievable community organizations. You know what exactly the remarks were about. I mean, it was like, let's go to this meeting and do kumbaya and get to know. No, we already know what this issue is about. This issue should have never been brought up. Our chair told me something, I'm not going to throw under the bus, but I think this is very important. Commissioner Corey was going to Palestine and was not going to attend the meeting that he was at. When he saw that the rabbi was going to be speaking about Heritage Month, then he called the chair and then said, oh, I'm not going to go. I want to come and speak on that. If he would have spoken on these things, this is what I understand about all of you. Is it our commission's duty to make people hurt? Is it our commission's duty and mission to make people suffer? Is it our commission's duty to feel even more discriminated? I want you all to get a hold of Julia Legaspi. Julia Legaspi is losing her life because of a hate speech said here. If you think I'm exaggerating, ask any of her friends. She's never been the same, and because it brought so many things back to her. I'm just so disappointed. I think we should do a letter apologizing to the LGBT community if they were ever hurt with the statements that were said here. I think we should apologize to the Jewish community if there were statements said here that were hurt. And you know what? They were, because we've gotten letters. And this is just, you know, we have the biggest cloud. What have we done? What have we really done other than get ourselves in controversy? What have we done other than to hurt the Jewish community? What have we done other than hate or bring hate and things down on the gay community?
Hi, Commissioner Clark speaking. So Commissioner Ralphie, I just want to acknowledge the deep pain of the statements that you made, and I would like to also engage and uplift the requests of many of the members of the public through comment and many of the commissioners, both last meeting and this meeting, about the importance of education, about the importance of calling communities in to dialogue that we need to model for our community. I also would like to acknowledge and uplift the request for commissioners to directly speak to other commissioners. I personally am not in favor of lots of letter writing, and I think that behind a lot of the letters that are written are an opportunity to converse and share each other's opinions, diverse opinions, respect each other's differences, and celebrate what brings us together. I really appreciated what Ms. Maxwell said and finding where we row together. There are too many challenges in this world to focus on what separates us. And so I echo Commissioner Naya's request to engage with the essential dialogue partners that are resources that this county and this commission have invested in, and use this as a model for us to engage in what is likely going to be a painful conversation, but an educational opportunity for all of
us. I'm glad, I'm very thankful that I'm part of this commission because I have the opportunity to voice my opinion, and also I have the opportunity to learn from each and every one of you. I've been contemplating on the issue since last meeting, and I came back with 3 points. I believe that these are, in my opinion, the 3 points that are causing, you know, this conversation and also the confusion. Number one, I heard that Commissioner Khoury did not address the Arab American Heritage Month achievement celebrations, but he talked about the issue of Palestine. Guess what? As an imam of the largest mosque in San Diego County, I can tell you that the issue of Palestine is the central issue in every single conversation we have in the community. This is a fact. Whether this ethnic group is from Palestine or from Pakistan or from Algeria, wherever in the world, the issue of Palestine is the central issue that we talk about. We cannot talk about the Arab American Heritage Month without touching on the painful experience of our brothers and sisters, Palestinian people. Number two, no one has the right to dictate or control someone else's narrative. No one. Everyone has the right to express his or her living experience the way they see it, the way they experienced it. almost every month of February, we host at the Islamic Center an event about the Black History Month. And we have speakers from both the African American Muslim and the African American Christian community. Every time I hear our African American brothers and sisters, when they talk about the Black Heritage Month, they touch on their own experience of slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights movement, all, and they have the right to say that. If we invite an indigenous person from the indigenous community and we ask him to or her to talk about their experience, if they talk about the stolen land that we are standing on at this moment, I don't blame them, because this is their narrative, and no one has the right to tell them this is what you can say, this is what you cannot say. Number three, the third and the last point, we're not here to solve the problem of Israel and Palestine. We are here to exercise our freedom of expression. We are here to hear the truth from one another, about who we are. We are here to learn and show respect. So let's give space to one another without being frustrated because we don't feel comfortable with the language used by someone else. Let's disagree respectfully. Thank you.
I was going to wait for Rodney if he wants to speak. Okay, Commissioner Roberts. Once again, we find ourselves in this crazy spot where we are the problem. We are finding ourselves at the mercy of somebody else's story, at somebody else's opinion, and we are focusing on that instead of acknowledging that these differences exist, which are representative of the communities that we're here to represent. I love what Pedro said. Commissioner and I, Pedro the man. You know, this bickering, this, you know, I'm sorry Julia Lagasse is having problems. I love her, but I was focused at that thing too, and I said, yeah, okay, understood. Let's move on. Somebody else's thoughts only require that I acknowledge they exist and learn from it. And we instead keep going off on this, oh my gosh, you hurt me. You did it intentionally. And I know George and I don't agree on anything generally. But we sit in here, we work together, we're on like almost all the committees together. We've worked on setting the bylaws up, and it was a joy to work with this man. You know, we need to get past this dogma issue. You know, I have, in his case, it's not dogma, it's a personal experience. On the previous exercise, it was a dogma issue. People's beliefs are essential to who they are, and we should acknowledge them, move on, acknowledge that they are part of the communities and why we are here to work the bigger problems rather than bicker amongst ourselves. And I invite everybody to participate and actually work through this thing that Commissioner and I have suggested. It's a great way. I think we need to have real honest conversations between ourselves that we can actually reach out to the community and make stuff happen. And I yield the floor now to the infamous Mr. Commissioner Fowler. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to, remind everyone, I spoke at the last meeting and we only have a certain amount of time, so I ran out of time. Director Strong started off the meeting with reading the rules of order instead of lying to the meeting on time, reading the agenda materials, to be respectful of others who were speaking and you. Until it was time to talk. I guess that's the commission. For the members of the public. We can see that this is we're in a public space. This is a public meeting, so the public is certainly invited to be there, has the right to be there. But we right here today, this is an example of when people's passions get out of control, how violations of our policy that you bring at the start of the meetings can happen. And it was disrespectful for the members of the public that are there to comment when the commissioner was speaking. And if we allow each one of us our emotions to get to us, whether we be commissioners or members of the public, we will not get the work done here at this commission. Commissioner Corey spoke about his personal experience in his home and his passing. There should be no action taken against Commissioner Corey in this commission. I think the commissioners and the members of the public, they have talked about supporting Commissioner Corey and talking more about this subject. That's something that we probably need to do. There's certain things we probably will not be able to solve in the worldwide problem that's been going on for years at this commission. But it's also time for, we have a commissioner here who arrived late today for this meeting for something that's a very important subject matter that keeps bringing up an issue that we've already voted on. We had a lot of discussion on it. It took almost a year to resolve that. We voted on it and moved on. It continues to be brought up. We will not go any further on anything else if that continues to happen. And I brought up an issue that was important to me because I was born here in San Diego County. My mom and dad were born here. My wife still works for the county. My wife had to sue the county of San Diego because her supervisor called her and said he was a nigger lover. Right here in this county, I can bring that up every day, right here when I come to this meeting. And that individual was allowed to leave the county, retired, and did not get fired. So when people talk about their experiences, I can come here every meeting and say something. We're less than African Americans, or less than 5% of the population here in this county. We have a district attorney and other officials that are here in this on this commission. But yet we are still the largest number of people that get victimized within this county and throughout the nation. And we're having to fight, relive the civil rights struggle that most people are having are dealing with also right here in this. But we are dealing with it on a daily basis. And the progress that our ancestors got is being erased because people are trying to eliminate our lived history. And for other organizations and communities, it's a shared history. And so I would hope that we will continue to move forward and come to take care of the business of what we're here for and leave our personal differences aside. Thank you.
This is very personal for me as the only Indigenous person from San Diego here. I'm a Kumeyaay person. My people have lived here for 10,000 years. And I don't see anything wrong with telling the truth. Sometimes it's hurtful, and I am half Kumeyaay and half white. And so I have to live with that, and I have to live my life in a way where I know part of me and my history did bad things to the other side of my family. But telling the truth, that's what we have to do. We have to speak about what happened so that it doesn't happen again. We have to humanize each other and listen to the stories of what happened. And when those are being told firsthand from a personal experience, we can't censor that. We can't tell people they can't say these things. I heard from the public today, the commission did these things. The commission has been here working very hard to try to bring about a process where we can all sit in this room and feel comfortable to bring our feelings out, to tell our stories, and to heal, to stop this. I don't know any other way to do that than to educate and to sit in the room the way Commissioner Anaya said, to talk about this. That's why I'm on this commission, so that no one ever has to feel the way that my people felt when these things happened to them a long time ago. It is like a horror movie when another group can come in and take away everything from you, your home, your way of life, and your own religion. You have to be able to tell these things. And then on the other side, there's another side of that story. And I want to hear that too. I know there's another side to what happened in America with the Indigenous people, but I know there was a lot of heartache, and I do talk about that. And on Thanksgiving, I may talk about that, and other Indigenous people do talk about that. But we're in this room together to work these things out. And just because something comes out that maybe you didn't agree with, doesn't mean that we have to call for someone's removal. I agree completely, but since I've been on this commission, I have sat on nearly every subcommittee with Commissioner Curry. We have talked about our own past and the things that happened to our people. And I will tell you that what I see out of him is a dedication to all people, not to only to his own story, but for all of us. That's why the people sitting before you today, all of us have something in our past that we're sitting here to try to make a difference for the future. When I come here and I sit here, I think about my grandkids and what their life will be like. Let's make a difference. Let's humanize each other. Let's educate each other. We can do this. Thank you.
Good evening. On May 16th was actually my first day in this commissioner representing the Asian Pacific Islander community. It was a day after the Nakba that Commissioner Curry addressed. On June 20th, both of us were not here, which ironically fell on International Refugee Day. As a refugee myself, when I talked about Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May, I addressed being an indigenous person who had no nation state. And yet, so many Filipino Americans had issues with me stating that I was indigenous, but it didn't go the same way as if it was addressing Palestinian history and identity. There's also a systemic way of addressing this thing, as you can see, Arab American Heritage Month is not the same as Black History Month. Heritage, it's much more palatable in American discourse, where you can eat, celebrate, dance, rather than address the historical injustices that our community can face. And this all stems from Dow versus US in 1915, when racial politics in the United States demanded a conversation around the race of Jesus. And so at that point, while it was started off with the Syrian community, it later on expanded from the 1940s and 50s to include anybody from Turkey to Iran as white. Yet the United Nations identified them as West Asians until they become citizens of this country, and their histories are erased and they just become a heritage. I want to be very clear that as refugees, we have a different narrative that's always contradictory to the nation state that we come from. We are often countryless or nationless people, part of a country that we are always denied back at home, where I am Filipino here in the United States, but I will never be Filipino in the Philippines.
I think we have all the commissioners spoke. Commissioner Mary Morales, we really would like each commissioner to have time to share.
I'm gonna my proposal that we have talked about, and I don't see it in the agenda.
I will come to that, and that's why I want to move this particular discussion to introduce any motions for discussion. Any motions for discussion, Commissioner Roberts.
Oh, I can, right in front of me. I'd actually like to make a motion that we drop this subject and move on. And that any consideration of censoring or removing Commissioner Corey be forgotten and stricken from the record.
I second that motion.
Discussion.
Well, yeah.
Let's start with Commissioner Roberts' nomination and take it to the floor. Any discussion? Yes. On the motion. On the motion.
The motion is to end this discussion, move, I'm gonna add one piece to it, move it offline into a dialogue conversation so that we can understand the issue. Remove any or stop any thoughts, removing Commissioner Corey from the commission, and basically remove this from our history because it was a living history.
Right, absolutely.
That's all right. You can have it up.
Since that's a friendly amendment, I will continue to second the motion.
Any discussion, comments? Commissioner Murray Maruris.
Well, it does not surprise me. This is exactly what we did when the homophobic and trans are abomination to God and so forth and so on. Even when we got letters from major organizations letting you know that my community was hurt by those statements, letting you know how people are suffering because of that. So of course, we take no thing, oh no, let's not even discuss it anymore. This is the second time I'm sure that this will happen again. And let me say, I will never stop discussing what happened when the homosexual community was said it was abomination before God. That's not going to leave my discussions.
Commissioner Naya.
Although I appreciate the inclusion of the dialogue piece in that, I would not be able to support a motion like that because the fact is, in order to get to the dialogue, we have to continue having this conversation and not sweep it under the rug, so that we don't do what we've done in the past and we learn from our mistakes and we're able to do something different this time. So I cannot support just seizing the conversation. I think that if we do get to a motion with the dialogue process, within that dialogue process, we can talk about apologies. We can ask those difficult questions. Are apologies needed? What should we do? All those difficult conversations in a space that's more than 2 hours, might be days, might be several sessions, depending on how the dialogue is designed. So I cannot support just, let's not talk about it, because in order to get into the dialogue, we have to talk about it.
But I request.
It's out of order. Commissioner Maruris, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kate or Clark? We want to keep order.
I agree with Commissioner Anaya. I think that to end the conversation and to put it lightly, that to sweep it under the rug would do us all a disservice in light of the calls for education from this commission, from many members of the public, and also just generally to be able to engage in the dialogue. So I agree. I would not be able to support the motion as it stands. And I would offer an amendment to include an educational component to that. And I also want to acknowledge the very hurtful comments that have even been made during this meeting today on the topic.
I would like to echo Commissioner Clark, but I also want to extend that we should not also erase this from the history, only in the context as well. Like by erasing it, we also erase Commissioner Curry's existence in the narrative. And I want to make sure that we also humanize his lived experiences as a Palestinian refugee who's gone through that like painful experience, as a way to also understand that people's truths are very painful and they are very much a part of our communities.
Commissioner Roberts, would you like to revise your?
I would. Actually, I just really love to watch Cindy run around. That's who I am. I acknowledge that your amendment's a good idea. I would like to amend the motion to not stop the conversation, but stop only the process and the thought of removing Commissioner Corey and proceeding into a dialogue external from this meeting.
A motion like that must be made, right? Like that, like from Robert's rules standpoint, that's not.
The council, yeah, if I may, Chair. The motion essentially is a motion to table, it means you take it off consideration entirely, and that is an appropriate motion. I mean, what the commissioner added was education. So either table the motion to remove Commissioner Corey, that's an appropriate motion. Second motion to add education.
Even though that now removal now on the agenda? The agenda item is. All right. So I just stated the agenda item was potential action, so we could discuss those potential actions and make a motion about this.
I would like to add, in addition to the amendment of the educational piece, I would like to add the affirmation of restoring the dignity of Commissioner Cody, because the accusations were very serious. So I would like to also suggest an affirmation to restoring the dignity of one of our fellow commissioners.
So, Chair and Director Strong, if we are following Robert Rules of Order, then I call this discussion question. Let's move on. Have a vote.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, council, but since the question has been called, we can now take the vote, based on that motion. The motion was to table the discussion on removal or censorship of Commissioner Corey, but also to move to education, for educational component, and then also to move to the dialogue process created by Central Park.
There's one of the commissioners won. All right, if one of the commissioners wants to call the question rather than the chair, then there has to be a vote. Discussion is done, the chair calls the question.
We're going to call the question.
We'll call for the question, no more discussion.
Chair, I'd like to adjust the calling the question, because clearly have someone over here who has some more info.
Commissioner Peru.
Thank you for that. And then really quick, so when we say table, does that mean we're gonna come back to it later, or is this like a temporary thing, or we're saying for sure we're gonna stop this discussion about his removal? Just to clarify.
There are two types of table motions. One is to kill it, basically. The second is to table it to the end of the meeting. I haven't heard the second option. But the maker of the motion can clarify.
Okay.
That's me.
I'm just feeling this motion, I know what we're trying to do. We're all trying to put a piece to it, to mold this motion into what we will all be comfortable with, but it's getting really messy. And when you operate in this way, when we operate in this way, it makes it somewhat difficult. Like I'm having a difficult time voting in a positive in a motion like this, because there's a lot of moving pieces. I would recommend that we actually vote this motion down and we bifurcate some of these things into separate motion. I think the education piece / dialogue piece is one motion that we can do. The issue we're bringing up about Commissioner Corey and future sanctions, I think that's a separate separate motion. I know that I will be voting no on this motion simply because it's a little convoluted and a little messy.
This is out of order. I already called the question. This commissioner has spoken. That commissioner already spoken. Everyone went around the room and spoke. Questions have been called, and we're still getting people putting their feet in.
Either
Right.
we're following rules of order or we're not.
So according to council, the question was called, the motion was made, there wasn't a second on that question.
We were not given the opportunity to make a second. For a second. He called for Robert's rules. He called for the question. No one, chair needs to say, is there a second? Okay, I would have seconded. And that would have been it in terms of statement about, moving on, having, Commissioner Corey remain on the commission. The next part would be the education piece. That would have been a motion. No, and to be voted on one or the other. And the third piece, there was a third piece. That would have been the form of a motion. There are these three different motions. And basically to simplify, let's go back to, I'm sorry, Commissioner Roberts, in terms of, would you restate your motion very succinctly, very clearly regarding Commissioner Corey, please? Focus only on that.
We do have a motion now in the second on the call question. We need to do that first, unless the maker wants to withdraw the motion. So we need to call the question. You need to do that now to vote to vote.
Call the question, right? All right, we'll take the vote.
This is the vote on the call to the question, not the question.
This is just a discussion.
So the motion on the floor is to call questions to end the discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Knight.
Aye.
Commissioner Kate Clark. Commissioner Angela Elliott Santos. Commissioner Eleanor Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Sarah Farouk. Commissioner Rodney Fowler. Commissioner David Garcias. Commissioner Taha Hassan. Commissioner George Corey. Edith Sanchez on behalf of Kelly Martinez. Commissioner Nicole Murray Ramirez. Chair Nash. Commissioner Khalid Rafi. Commissioner Gina Roberts. Commissioner Joseph Allen Rialto Ramirez. District Attorney Summer Stephan. Commissioner David Vance. Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Commissioner Roberts' motion. Turn to it.
Right.
Okay, would you restate it again one more time?
Okay, I'm gonna say the convoluted version because that's what's on the table right now. First of all, to table indefinitely the concept of removing George Corey from the commission. To establish a educational component to learn more about the history of the Palestinian. And 3, to enter into a discussion within the commission using the dialogue process eliminated by essential partners. This was just.
All for a second. We already have a second.
Do you agree with the second?
Do you agree with the second now?
Well, I didn't, you know, if you change the word.
I think you just made it more succinctly and a lot more clear. Okay. I will second that.
Whatever, we have.
No discussion.
Okay, we'll call the vote. Commissioner Naya.
Okay.
Mr. Kate Clark. Commissioner Angela Elliott Santos.
Abstain.
Commissioner Eleanor Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarah Fu, Commissioner Rodney Fowler,
Okay, the three parts of the motion again are table the removal of George Corey definitely. And create a educational component for us to learn about that issue. And three, to enter into a dialogue process using the essential partners methodology to establish a better conversation between the parties concerning this issue.
Okay, due to the pause with a point of clarification, we have to ask if there's anybody who would like us to start the vote over. Yes, okay, so we have members who would like to start the vote over. Okay, and if you could speak loudly when you're voting, that way the mics and everyone can pick you up, okay?
Can entertain points of clarification to make sure everybody understands the motion. That's all we can do right now because we called the question.
I'll just say that how he is presented, how the commissioner is presenting is the motion has been stated differently every time. And so it's a challenge for us to understand exactly the motion that we're voting on.
That's what I was trying to clarify, Commissioner Roberts, because the one thing here that I want to resolve, and I'm sure that over the last 2 meetings, we heard members of the public speak, Commissioner Corey is not on probation or parole. And so he should not be in limbo while we go another couple of months about this. We need to clear that up about Commissioner Corey tonight, in my opinion. So, thank you.
So you can withdraw your motion.
I officially withdraw my motion and wish to make another. Did I say that loud? Motion number 1. Table indefinitely the concept of removing Commissioner Corey for the statements made on 16 May 2023. Any questions?
Call for a second. I'll second.
We have a motion in a second. I'll call for the vote. Any discussion from the members? Commissioner Anaya? Commissioner Anaya? No, call for the vote. Commissioner Anaya? Aye. Commissioner King Clark? Commissioner Angela Elliott Santos?
Aye.
Commissioner Eleanor Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarah Farouk? Commissioner Rodney Fowler? Commissioner David Garcias? Commissioner Taha Hassan? Commissioner George Corey? Edith Sanchez on behalf of Kelly Martinez. Commissioner Nicole Murray Ramirez. Chair Ellen Nash. Commissioner Khalid Rafi? Commissioner Gina Roberts?
Aye, sir.
Commissioner Joseph Allen Durante Ramirez? District Attorney Somerset? Commissioner David Vance?
Aye.
Turn the lights on. Madam Chair, that motion passes. With 2 abstentions and 1 nay.
We have any, okay, now we'll have a Commissioner Evans and then we'll have Commissioner Naya.
I just want to make a point. The chair does not vote in this list of time. We are following Robert's Rules of Order as well as the judges' rules of order. So only if there's a tie does the chair vote. Thank you.
Is that right?
We'll have council chime in on this.
I'm not familiar with that rule, unless you. Chair, I'm not familiar with that rule. So it's.
I think the lights are going to go off.
All right, and folks, we have some facilities difficulties with our lights. Give us a second, we'll have that time to come back on. But would we like to entertain a second motion on this?
Commissioner Naya.
So, I don't want Commissioner Roberts to have all the fun with motions. So I'm going to take this away from her for a second. I'd like to make a motion and I'd like to speak to my motion. But I wrote it down so that we stick to one, we're not having multiple versions of it. So, I move through the chair's leadership, the establishment of a working group to organize a dialogue using the recent Essential Partners training to made up of a planning group made up of 6 individuals. They can consist of community members, commissioners, reflective of the various viewpoints, and to include some of the folks who have spoken here today. These groups will establish the participants, format, and dialogue questions to address what is to be done, including future education initiatives and next steps. That is my motion, and I have it written down, so if I need to repeat it multiple times, I can.
I will second that. You're gonna take my fun away.
So now I'd like to, before you second, I'd like to speak to my motion. Look, we've had a lot of conversation. When I look back at those of us that had the opportunity to go through both the training and the mock trials of the essential partners, it feels like a fit. I'm sorry that not everyone in this room participated and could see it, and I feel like the rest of the commission that did not participate in that, I'm asking for their trust in that process, that those of us that went through it are seeing something a little different and see the potential here. I think if you would have had the opportunity and for whatever reason you couldn't participate, either travel or other commitments that you couldn't participate, I know it's hard to say like, well, how's that going to be different? How is that going to help? I'm asking for your trust for those of us that did spend both several evenings or day-long trainings and weekends in this building doing that you look at that. I want to challenge us to look at the potential. We have an opportunity here to be a model. At the end of the day, going through this process, we're going to set up a model of when we have these very, very difficult conversations of one potential tool that we could use. And at the end of the day, we learned one very valuable thing, I think, in the essential partners, and they use a difficult issue, right? They use the issue of abortion as a conversation that they've had that took them literally 5 years, and at the end of the day, they didn't resolve the issue. But what they came out of that together, and the fact that they went through that together, and the respect that they earned with this frankly, was a very clandestine process, the way they did at that time. And so we may not find a resolution at the end of this, but we have to try something different, and we can model it. And I think modeling it is what the value of this is going to be.
Commissioner Roberts seconds, Commissioner Naya's motion.
Call for the question, call for discussion.
Oh, we have
Commissioner Fowler?
Yeah, thank you. I want to, congratulate and certainly support the work that the staff did and the commissioners that could attend. But however, there's some, I wasn't able to attend. There's some leaders here in this room, commissioners who throughout their career have had experience in dealing with that. I say we have, and I know several of my colleagues on this panel have. But I think what we're forgetting here is that over the last 2 meetings, not only have we had commissioner time on public space, members of the public spending their time coming to participate and make their comments, we are being disrespectful of their time and their commitment because they're certainly not able to attend the training. The members of the public that are here tonight and that came to the last meeting, we're being disrespectful of and not considerate of their time and the fact about trying to resolve this issue concerning Commissioner Corey. We have, in my opinion, based on the participation from last meeting tonight, we have overwhelming support for Commissioner Corey to have him remain on this panel and restore his dignity to this panel. Now, there were some people that say they got offended by his comments, but we've had overwhelming support tonight and in the prior meeting last month. And this issue with Commissioner Corey needs to be resolved tonight. We don't need to keep on kicking this down the road. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So Commissioner Pedro and can I ask that clarification? So is the motion to have the dialogue and then in the process, we might come to a point where we have like a workshop or a training or a presentation from a trusted organization in the Palestinian community? Is it the same thing? Because for me, I feel like I'm seeing it differently. I'm seeing there's a piece where it's like there's dialogue between us, whatever that can look like, or.
So that, depending on how this, again, anyone that's out there participating in the central partners this time, but as I understand the process, that could be one of the questions that this dialogue tackles. What do we do? What education we do? And from that could come that deeper education or that. I mean, it's literally, those are the type of questions that this planning group that would set this up would ask potentially.
Because to me personally, I'm very reluctant to support that because I feel like what we need right now as a result of this whole conversation discussion is an immediate next step being like a presentation from somebody that maybe Commissioner Corey can recommend or suggest that we bring them and have a presentation or a training similar to how we've done it in the past. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about the motion. I appreciate the thought behind it, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Commissioner Vance?
Thank you. I agree with your comments that for me, the next step needed here is education. And I certainly think that if we are going to entertain the possibility of a dialogue, I would argue that we need to have education before we have a dialogue. That would be my suggestion. I'm open to the possibility of a dialogue, but I absolutely think that before that happens, we need education from this community first.
Commissioner Fowler, I believe we have put the issue of that everybody came here for about Commissioner Corey's existence on the commission. That has been put to bed. And I think your concern may not be necessary. No, just wait. Cindy gets to run around over there. Let's close it that way.
Commissioner.
I just wanted to have a clarification because I think that the spot or the position for a representative of the Jewish community is not been filled, right, on this commission. So, or has it been filled? I don't believe so.
It has been approved today.
Okay, but it's not here, so it's kind of hard for me to imagine how this dialogue or even approving the dialogue without, you know, both sides would want to agree to the dialogue. I don't know. I feel like it's premature. I think everybody wants to have their own self-determination of how they want to see the process, and we don't have full representation to reach a point where everybody agrees to a dialogue. And I feel personally dialogues are something that a commission can force. I don't know how it doesn't feel like, I feel like it would come from the commissioner's own spirit, you know, that they want to have that with all sides represented.
In all due respects, in the last 2 weeks, you've all been getting communication from me. I've had a lot of talk with the Jewish community and their leaders and their activists. I believe that we're really going to move forward. One of the major things has to be more representation from the Jewish community, as there is none that are Jewish. After having a lot of discussions, and I thank the chair for also Reamer appointed from the ADLU. Why don't you stand up and just tell us your name?
Hi, my name is Fabian Sola, I'm the Regional Director of the
Out of order, out of order. We are discussing this. We only have 15 minutes
All
left.
right, well,
And so I want to make sure we bring this issue to closure. And in regards to the dialogues that we've been having, I have been participating 100%. And I'm very, very convinced and moved that the dialogues are equipping us to do some of this work that we're talking about. I'm a changed person from it, and the ones that have attended also have been impactful. I had hoped as chair that many of you would sit under the Essential Partners Dialogue. So I'm very passionate about it. I support Commissioner Naya's recommendation on it. And if we do need, we are bringing on the Anti-Defamation League as soon as the training is over. I wanted to talk more about that tonight, but we're getting short on time, and we are going to be stopping here in 15 minutes. So I would like to say, to bring this to closure, we will bring on the voice of the Jewish community. We'll talk about the dialogue. We'll talk about the process, which does include education, and it does include sharing with a history about others' communities. It is a part of the dialogue that I've witnessed and experienced. So let's not make the assumption that the dialogue is going to exclude that, because it includes that. It is at our will, it is under our direction as to how those dialogues are taking place. The last time I checked, those that have been with me, it has been our voice that have had input into the design of the dialogues to include our ideas and input. So let's not discount that, because those of us who have been in those dialogues, we know the process, and we trust it, as Pedro says, and we've learned from it. So I would like for us to go ahead and have, at our next meeting, we will have our voice of the Jewish community. We will also have the opportunity to also look at some of the other vacancies that we have. But at this point, we only have 10 minutes left, and we have not given time to the Immigrants' Rights Department. I want to apologize to you. We will have you on the agenda next month. But let's go ahead and again allow the voices of our Jewish commissioners that is coming onto this commission. next month to be a part. Hopefully, the training occurs next month. Then we will decide how we want to approach the dialogue piece. Commissioner Corey, you are commissioner. I personally respect you. And I want to say, I would like to apologize. This is Ellen Nash talking. To those that were hurt by whatever hurt that is. The pain is there. I talk about as Commissioner Fowler, when I talk about my story, it hurts. When I go home and when I use the term lynching, my grandson says, "Grandma, what's lynching?" Then he sees it on TV, a Black man hanging from a tree. That's traumatizing. But the story, the truth has to be told. It has to be told. And I would like to, if it's appropriate, to go ahead and end this meeting at this time. And we will continue this discussion when we do have a voice of the Jewish community, our commissioner here, and then we can take that upon. But at this point, I'm the chair, and I'm sorry. You all have been here for 2-3 hours. You use your gas, $5 a gallon for gas, which is ridiculous to drive all the way here. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your voice. I believe you're going to be with me when I talk about my issue, from Black Lives Matters to all the others. You stand with me. We're going to stand together to save our San Diego County. The residents are hurting. We're all hurting, and we have issues to deal with, and we want to deal with those issues. I want the immigration department, if you could come back next month, we will have you on the agenda because I have some issues around the immigrant affairs that I wanted to share with you tonight. But we want to do this right.
And Madam Chair, we do have a motion and a second. So the options are to withdraw the motion or call the vote.
Table to.
We can continue it to the next meeting. Need to vote to continue to the next meeting.
Can we vote to continue? Let's vote to continue to the next meeting.
We have a motion and second. Second, the motion to continue. The motion seconded by Commissioner Roberts. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Anaya. Aye. Commissioner Kate Clark. Commissioner Angela Elliott Santos.
Aye.
Commissioner Eleanor Evans. Commissioner Sarah Farouk. Commissioner Rodney Fowler. Commissioner David Garcia. Commissioner George Corey. Commissioner Kelly Martinez. Oh, I'm sorry, Edith Sanchez, on behalf of Kelly Martinez. Commissioner Taha Hassan. Commissioner Nicole Murray Ramirez. Chair Ellen Nash. Commissioner Khalid Rafi. Commissioner Gina Roberts.
Aye.
Commissioner Joseph Allen Walter Ramirez. District Attorney Summer Stafford. Commissioner David Vance.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that motion passes. 11 yeses, 2 noes, and 3 abstentions.
Thank you. Is there any other, is there any other comments?
Apologies for revision of the 12 yeses, not 11, 12 yeses, 12 yeses.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to go on. Item number 9, subcommittee updates.
Well, just for the legislative committee, I do want to say that we need some more commissioners. There's only 3 of us, Commissioner Corey, myself, and Commissioner Evans. So on August 15th, we do want to have a legislative subcommittee meeting, so please join up with us. We need your help. Any other committee or just that?
Communication Committee. On August the 5th, we're having our community meeting at the Lemon Grove Library. Everyone in this room needs to be there. This is an opportunity for the community, and if you know someone who lives in the area, please have them come. All right, this is an opportunity for them to share what they feel their needs are that are not being met by the county. So please, August the 5th, Lemon Grove Library.
Just a Saturday.
Yes, sir. Any other reports? Okay, and again, we're begging you, commissioners, participate in the committees. Every organization that I've been a member of, whether it's the Urban League, whether it's Community Housing Works, whether it's CTA, California Teachers Association. If you're a member of the board, if you're a delegate, you are on a committee. That is the work. That's where the work is. If we have more commissioners working on committees, I think we'd have a little less of the verbiage that we've been hearing today. Seriously. And that is not to start argument number 3, that language. Okay? If there are no other comments, then I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it, seriously. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Clark, I did not speak.
I guess I just had a question of if there's a hard and fast rule that we end by 7:30, because I know that we did agendize several things on the agenda. I know that director came from the lawyer office, and I was going to speak on the Immigrant Heritage Month. So I'm just curious if it's the chair's discretion to end the meeting, or if there's a hard and fast rule that we end by 7:30.
Time certain, and this is a public building that they have to clean up, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you have to be out of here.
So it's 7:30 then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.